I'm looking at some of the messages coming in. These days it's woke and Jordan, not white and Jordan. Jim White not having the antics of Chris Eubank Jr. the other day when he had that egg moment and he slapped it right into Conor Benn's face. I'm nothing wokeish about me, I can assure you. When I let rip, you'll know all about it. But I do feel it's maybe what the sport doesn't need, and yet many people are saying, no, it's great. It's great. You watch it. Everybody wants to go to that fight. During the break, and I may as well get this out there, Ben Shalom very kind. Boxer's chief exec Ben Shalom's alongside Spencer. Ben very kindly showed me his phone, so we know this for a fact. How many people are in the queue for pre-sale tickets right now?
I've just been sent a message. I think it's over 95,000 people in a pre-sale. I think to be part of the pre-sale, you've either had to buy the game Fatal Fury or perhaps on the Tottenham Hotspur membership. But to have 95,000 in that, we only go on general sale tomorrow. I think shows the scale of this fight. I've never seen anything like that. This isn't, as I say, this isn't even general sale.
I was going to say, I mean, you are now pretty experienced, Ben. You've done a lot of fights. Yeah. Is this set to be the biggest?
I think it could be the biggest demand for tickets of a UK fight we've ever seen. Like this is bigger than AJ Dubois. This is bigger than Froch and Groves. This is bigger than, from a numbers point of view, any of those fights. And in the past 2 decades, I'd say between two Brits, this is the biggest we're likely to see.
And you did Canbrook.
Canbrook.
At Manchester, you and I were at
Canbrook, we regretted not doing a stadium. It was in the winter. We could have sold a stadium. But even this, when I look at numbers like that, you start to see that, you know what it is? It's the different generations. Eubank and Ben have really, the younger generation have really bought into them for them, but then you have the older generation that remember the first 2 dads fights, and it's just hitting everyone.
And Simon, I think, is it fair to say you think it's nothing more than a freak show?
I do. I mean, I think Chris is a charlatan at world level. I think he doesn't take world title fights when there is opportunities to do so, and every time he steps up, he gets beat by a world title operator. And I think Conor Benn has, with all due respect to Conor, and I like Nigel, and I like Conor, has never explained why drugs tests have been failed, and boxing shouldn't tolerate that.
I think that's very unfair, though, to say that this is not a huge show, and it's a decent fight.
It's a huge show.
It's a decent fight, and you go, you know, whether there's an argument of whether they're world level or not world level, this is a huge fight, and it's a decent fight.
Do you remember 2 years ago when Conor was out here, and I said to him, you're 147 fighting against a 160 fighter. Why would you go this direction? The only reason you're going this direction is because you want to get paid.
I think he's 154
and if everybody else
now
wants to participate in that, that's fantastic. My view is that he's a welterweight stepping up to get paid, and the only reason that this is... And Chris Eubank is coming down to get paid. And the only reason this has the lure is because of the deeds of real world title fighters, which are their fathers.
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, I think this is a narrative of its own. I also think both of their styles, they're aggressive fighters, they come forward fighters. It's going to be a real fight. This is going to be a firefight. It genuinely is. And I think a lot of boxing fans, regardless of the quality, we see people watching English titles, and when it's 50-50 and 2 guys going at it in the centre of the ring, that's what we love. This is going to be an absolute war.
In the modern era of boxing right now, fights can be made. This is a great fight. I think stylistically, because we don't know, you know, with the fighters coming down and the fighters going up in weight, where they're at in their careers right now, their fathers, sons, the history between them, all the feuds. Simon, come on, mate. Was a real fight. Simon, you know this is a decent fight. I'm sitting here, I'm looking across at you. You're saying stuff. I can see your little face, that little smirk on it. Yeah. I know you know this is a decent fight. Will you be going there?
No.
Would you?
Does it have intrigue? Does it have a whole grade of jeopardy in it because of the intensity of the rivalry?
Mate, there's 95,000
But
people.
why isn't it a proper fight? Are you saying anything less than fighting for a world title isn't a proper fight?
Well, I don't think the level of the attention this fight is getting merits.
That's because
it does.
You guys think differently? That's entirely your prerogative. You don't have to defend your argument. I don't have to defend mine.
I agree.
I'm looking at Conor Benn. I look at people being at the top of their professions, of which neither one of them are. Conor Benn may well win a world title in years to come. Chris Eubank has had 2 tilts that it couldn't do it. Constantly tells us about what he's worth and how his Las Vegas mention is this and that and the other. Never fights anybody of any merit.
No, that's not true though. You're unfair on Chris. Chris took a Billy Joe Saunders fight early on in his career. Had a bad first 6 rounds. Had a great back 6 rounds. Very, very good fight against Billy Joe Saunders, who's one of the best. Then goes into the World Super Series, which is the best super middleweight. It's not really a super middleweight. Was in a great fight against one of the best super middleweights we've ever seen in George Groves. Okay, but he's fought at that level. He's still taking the big fights. He's still beating James DeGale. He's still beating Arthur Abraham. Yes, he still avenged the loss of Liam Smith. He does go into big fights.
But listen
he
to
does.
the nature of the observation. This is a bigger fight. Just still it for a second. This is a bigger fight than Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois for the world heavyweight title.
Yeah.
This is a bigger fight. Why is it a bigger fight? Why is it a bigger fight?
I would say because of Chris Eubank
Because of
Jr.
momentum is
Because of Chris Eubank
because of
Jr.
No, I mean, here's the
because of
situation.
notoriety.
On April the 26th, here in the UK, if you had 2 televisions, and on one television, you can watch Bivol Beterbiev 3. On the other one, you can watch Eubank Jr. Ben.
Because of notoriety.
Which one are you watching, Simon?
Because infamy sells.
What do you sell? What do you watch?
Probably better Bivol.
No.
No. That was a late change
To be
in your
fair,
decision.
Simon is a boxer, and that is the best of the best. But the
that's my
intrigue,
argument.
the intrigue's
That's
too
essentially my
hard to not
argument.
watch this.
Yeah,
It's
but
infamy.
I think the wider audience,
Infamy. They've all got it, infamy.
The wider audience, though, would watch Ben Eubank without a doubt.
and the
I think the hardcore boxing fan obviously recognise that
You lost all credibility with
Tyson
Jake Paul
Come on,
observation.
it's because I backed you into a
It's
corner
true,
here,
isn't
and
it?
you know it.
That is
You know it.
Yeah.
Spencer, you're one step too far on this.
And you can be quiet as well, mate.
There was a lot of interaction the other day, of course, it's fair to say, during the press conference before the face-off between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. And part of that was Ben poking at Chris Eubank Jr. saying, well, my dad's here, but where is yours? You'll hear more of that in a minute. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan. We're live on talkSPORT Thursday lunchtime. That means we're talking boxing. And Spencer Oliver is alongside us. We are talking about Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. We're talking about the fight that's going to take place right here in April in London. And of course, we saw what happened the other day at the first press conference and face-off in Manchester. The second press conference and face-off is due to happen this afternoon in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the face-off is going to happen on the pitch, as we understand it. Ben Shalom, who's Chris Eubank Jr.'s promoter, is with us. CEO of Boxer is Ben, and he tells us the face-off should happen this afternoon. Have you heard from Conor Benn in the last few minutes? Or have I dropped you right in it?
You have. Look, Conor, to be honest, I've never had any bad blood with Conor, but he's just told me he's going to give me a little slap at the press conference. So he's ready. He's ready, and he's bent up. But it'll be interesting. Look, it's so interesting because, look, we could talk about what this fight is, what this fight isn't. Conor is so much like Nigel, or how Nigel used to be. He's angry, he's on edge, he's aggressive, he's this, he'll never change. Chris is very intelligent, very eloquent, can wind up anyone, and it's just an unbelievable sort of, you put them together and it's fireworks. And yeah, today will be fireworks, but I'm hoping it will be calmer than what we saw on Tuesday.
Okay.
I think it should be.
Less of the slapping and more of the talking. Actually, when they were talking the other day, Conor Benn was pushing Chris Eubank Jr. on the fact that thus far there was no sign of Chris's dad, of course, Chris Eubank Sr., whilst Nigel Benn was right beside him and Nigel Benn would be in his corner. Dip into this.
You know what? Listen, Chris can say what he wants. The bottom line is, his dad don't even like him. You could not pay that man enough money to sit in this man's corner. Now that's an accomplishment, Chris. That's an accomplishment. Well done. The most unlikable geezer on the planet. Even your dad don't like you.
Maybe.
Man,
Maybe.
drop the mic.
I mean, you were sitting alongside Eubank Jr. during all that. Is Eubank Sr. going to show up? Is he going to be there today?
He won't be there today. I think he will be involved. Personally, I don't like, and Simon might say this is, I don't like when it gets personal. I think that is a step too far. I like the jokes, I like the fun, but that's something where I always think you stay out of. But yes, I think we will see Senior at some point.
Do you think Eubank Sr. will be at the fight in April?
I believe so, but at the end of the day, I don't think this is about the fathers anymore. The first one was called Born Rivals because it was about the dads. It was about Eubank and Ben, and it still is. But this time they've got a history of their own. They've had 2.5 years going at it. They've had all sorts of stuff between them. It's now about them, and whether he's there or whether he's not, my main focus is Chris Eubank Jr. making sure he's ready to win the fight in emphatic style, which I believe he will be.
Surely it's a promoter's dream. It's to have Ben Senior and Eubank Senior in the two corners.
It would be unbelievable. It would be unbelievable. It's hard to imagine this fight getting any bigger than it already is. But Chris Eubank Jr. out of the two is less reliant on his father. He's made a name for himself, and he's a big star in his own right.
What is your thinking in all of this, Spencer?
Of course, having the fathers involved would make it, very, very interesting, and because of that history that they both got. But this fight is big enough on its own now. I think that Ben's right in what he says. That there's a lot of stuff that's gone on in the last 2.5 years between these two that has sort of magnified it much more than it already was. And I think that there is general interest in this one now. I think that they've carved that out. Simon, you're sitting there shaking your head.
It's only big because of their fathers.
No, it's not, mate.
If their
I disagree with
names
that.
weren't Ben and Eubank, if their names weren't Ben and Eubank, this fight would never have been mooted. It would never have been a collision course for the pair of them. They're fighting at completely different weight classes. It's been orchestrated because of the legacy of their fathers and because of the uniqueness of their fathers.
It might have
agree,
it might have been the spark, but it's not
exactly that.
Yes, the spark. Now it's got a different narrative. Absolutely. Chris he had to get himself emaciated for the first fight, so he'd go and lose to Liam Smith, which nothing to do with the fact that Liam Smith beat him fair and square.
But he beat Liam on the return.
Failed a couple of drugs tests. So that's the background. Yeah, that's the narrative,
and that's what's sold now, and that's what it is. So that's what's made this.
People aren't buying this anymore because of their fathers. They're buying it because of what's gone on between these two. 100%.
Well, Ben, I mean, as you said earlier, and for those who've just tuned in, 100,000 people are on the pre-sale ticket waiting list at the moment, and that's unprecedented.
This is the biggest event of the year. Never mind boxing. This is the biggest event that will take place in the UK this year. Sporting event. I genuinely believe that. We could have sold 300,000 or 400,000 tickets for this.
If you can sell Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, you can sell anything.
No, come on. This is
the world we live in.
This isn't YouTubers.
This
is not YouTubers.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson was huge, mate.
Oh, I know it was. Look what that was.
It was huge for kids.
Yeah.
This is everyone. This is real sports fans as well.
I agree.
Actually, we should talk. I mean, there's Ben, B-E-N, saying to me, Jimmy, you're going to ask Spencer how he thinks it will go. Ben, for one, thinks that Eubank Jr. will win it. What is your thought process there as to what we might see on April the 26th?
Size should prevail in this one. I think that Ben. I think that there's a huge size difference between these two. Whether Conor Benn's coming up and he's moved up to 154, he can still make 147. Chris Eubank Jr. is boiling down from 168 to 160. There's a £10 rehydration clause in that, which will make no difference because £10 is a lot of weight.
And I wouldn't say it made no difference. I think that is a.
I think it goes in the favour of Chris Eubank Jr.
No,
I think £10 is a lot of weight, Ben.
I don't think there should be one. I disagree.
I'm not saying whether there should or shouldn't be one, but I'm saying £10 is sufficient enough to rehydrate, so he gets in there at say 170 maximum. Chris Eubank Jr. is much, much bigger, and for that reason, I lean towards Chris Eubank Jr.
What do you mean he's the better fighter, Spencer?
Yeah, that's what I said.
He's not bigger. He's the better fighter,
and he's bigger.
But he's the
and
better
that makes
fighter.
the difference. Yeah, but that can be argued at the moment because you go, where is Chris?
What's Conor done to say that he's anywhere near Chris Eubank?
He's done nothing to say that at all. But he was talking about youth, where is that in their careers? That momentum is sort of with him a little bit, as in he's improving. That is clear to see.
Is he?
He is improving.
Is he? So you think his last two performances were an improvement?
You're challenging me on someone that I'm actually saying your fighter wins, and you're still challenging me. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? I said Chris Eubank Jr. wins the fight, and you're challenging me on that situation.
Spencer, I've got to say, a lot of people are backing Simon. Simon is spot on because their names are Ben and Eubank, and it's as simple as that. People are thinking about the dads, and they want to see what the sons can do. There's another one there. I'm a huge fight fan. Of course, this is only happening because of what happened with their fathers in years gone by. So Simon's touching something there.
It is, but let's celebrate this because it is the concoction of so many different things into one event. One historic event. It is Eubank Ben 3, but it's also Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. It's also it's got everything. In many people's eyes, this is a 50-50 fight. It's two exciting fighters. Maybe you don't think they're Bivol and Beterbiev, but they are two exciting fighters.
He's done, isn't he?
He's not going to lose this fight.
If he were to lose this fight,
he's going to beat Conor Benn once. He's going to beat him twice, and he's going to fight Canelo in
we've got to have
February.
two of them now, have we?
But
there's two fights.
Oh, lovely.
There's two fights.
That is the narrative, I think, that going into this
There's
contest.
a rematch clause.
Of course there is, because there's money at the end of it.
Well, there's two fights because we want Chris Eubank Jr. to have 2 big nights.
So if Eubank goes and blasts him out in 2 rounds, have we got to endure another one?
Well, I think everyone would enjoy seeing that.
Why? If it's so one-sided, why would they?
I think everyone would
he's
enjoy.
Never fought at that level. Chris Eubank's a much bigger fighter, and he's big, and he's fought at a different level than Conor Benn. So there's a distinct possibility that Chris could go in there and deal with it quite convincingly. And so, in the pursuit of enriching you and Conor and Chris Eubank, we've got to endure a second fight if the first fight is so one-sided.
First of all,
what about world titles? Don't people want to fight for world titles?
Chris Eubank Jr. will fight Canelo Alvarez in February, I believe that.
Yeah.
He's got 2 fights against Conor Benn. He's going to beat Conor Benn twice, and then he'll fight Canelo. And that's the fight he's always wanted.
Yeah, but if you win one each, we know what's going to happen.
If there's one each, yeah. But honestly, I know miracles do happen, but Conor Benn is not beating Chris Eubank Jr.
Are we under the understanding that the winner of this fight fights Canelo next? That's what I'm hearing.
There's two. Look, I think when Turkey said
if
that,
there's no public
he gave the game away.
Demand, Simon's right in what he says. If Eubank goes in there and wipes Conor out in 2 rounds, there's no public demand on it. You don't get the rematch, surely.
That's not the narrative.
There'll be huge public demand for this, and I think Turkey's given His Excellency's given the game away there when he says the winner's going to fight Canelo, because Conor Benn's not fighting Canelo, is he?
Why not?
Come on.
Eddie Hearn, I'm hearing, is going to be on Drive later on this afternoon. You get a message for Eddie at this stage in the proceedings, Ben?
Just to be careful, because although Chris Eubank Jr. has been reported to the board, he might be reported to the board.
Oh dear. Stay with us.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.